and welcome to another fresh edition of ESPN FC Live with myself, Alexis Nunes, and the Stevie Nicol, who doesn't really have the biggest smile on his face, because I know for the first time, I think ever, Stevie was hoping that your very big enemies of Manchester United would do Liverpool a favor and hold off Manchester City in this Manchester derby that has just concluded. Manchester City win that one at the Etihad by 3-1. But Stevie, that one goal had Liverpool fans and Manchester United fans hoping even for at least that first half that they could pull off the upset, because not many people gave Manchester United a hope of even getting a point here today once they went into this match. But it started out like it could have been a shock for Manchester City, because it was a stunning goal from who else but Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was the biggest shock.
Rashford scored.
Yeah, Rashford scored, yeah. I mean, the game actually played out from start to finish how we actually thought it would.
Yeah.
And sitting watching it, when Rashford scores his goal, straight away I'm thinking about Chelsea a couple of weeks ago. So that's what it felt like. Unfortunately for Liverpool, it didn't finish that way. And unfortunately for United, it didn't finish that way. But it's really tough. You know, at 1-0 and Rashford on the breakaway, Kyle Walker, who I think fouls him and it isn't given. And then straight after that, Phil Foden gets on that gorgeous left peg of his and strokes it into the top corner. Then if you're United, I think you've got an argument. The problem is, if you look at the game as a whole over the 90 minutes, there's not a lot of argument. I mean, City completely and utterly dominated the game, had United penned in. Some great defending from United, some good goalkeeping from Onana, 2 1-on-1s with Foden, a great save from Rodri. And it kind of, you thought maybe possibly they could hold out, but as soon as that ball hit the top corner from Foden, you just felt that City were going to get another one. And of course, they ended up getting two. The last one is handed to them. It's a horrible ball into Amrabat around his throat. He ends up losing it. Of course, the ball's passed to Erling Haaland, who missed the most incredible chance in the first half. A yard out, empty net, no real pressure on him, and somehow he put it over the bar. Well, he didn't miss this one. He opened his body up on his left peg and rolled it into the bottom corner, and that was it. The game was over. So, yeah, big picture is no question. One team deserved this win. But at the same time, if you're United, what could have been, should have been, maybes, buts and ands and all that. But, yeah, 3-1 the final. And I guess, as I said, deservedly so.
Yeah, deservedly so. When you look at the stats, Manchester City were just absolutely dominating, as I think many of us expected that they would. Like I said, that match, the Mac Derby, just wrapped up. Mark Ogden, our senior writer, he was there at the Etihad. We're going to bring him in right now for some quick and fresh reaction. Augie, just speaking to Stevie about it, expected win for Manchester City. They dominated all the way, but he actually interestingly said that it's probably Manchester United now that's been left thinking of what could have been, despite it, because of how it all started. How did you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody came here today expected to win, and United in many ways came out of it with their heads held high, in the sense that they gave it a go. They had a game plan, and for about an hour they were kind of holding on. But I'm interested that Stevie thought that it was a foul on Rashford by Kyle Walker. I thought it was a little bit soft, and I thought that if Marcus Rashford tried to take the ball on and draw a foul a bit further on in the move, that would have potentially got a free kick or a penalty in the penalty area. So it's a funny one. I mean, listen, if that was Stevie making a foul on an opposition player, I'm pretty sure you'd have done by if that was given against you. But it was 50-50. But, you know, United, with what they had available today in terms of the injuries they've got, they did as well as you could expect and maybe better. But I just think City's quality told in the end. And it was just like, you just felt that it was going to be so hard for United to resist that City pushing and pushing and pushing as they do. You know, they had a lot of square pegs in round holes, United, today, and they held up for a while. But once the changes started to be made, you know, when Anthony came and Amrabat came, and you saw the kind of weaknesses in the squad, and it just felt like they were clinging on for so long. And then once the changes were made, they had to really. So I think it's a fair result. been a massive weekend in the title race. Obviously, Liverpool scoring late against Forest and City getting a late win against United. But I just think it shows you the depth that City have got and how they're never going to give in. And next weekend's game at Anfield is massive, and I think that game will decide the title. And I'm sorry to Arsenal fans, I keep writing Arsenal off. I do think that Liverpool and Man City are the two teams that I would expect to contest the title race in May, right at the end of the season.
Alexis, can I go back to the Rashford one? Because
I was just going to say, what are your thoughts there, Stevie?
Well, I think there's two things, and I, in some ways I agree. I mean, it's not grievous bodily harm from Kyle Walker, but he's bumping him and he's trying to nibble. And I think the reason the free kick's not given is because Rashford goes down so easily, so dramatically, that when you're watching it, he looks as though he's looking for it. He looks as though he's wanting any sort of touch. And of course, I think that's what's going through the referee's mind, and I think that's why he doesn't give it. Had Rashford stayed strong, take whatever's thrown at you, and if it's egregious enough, then fair enough, you'll get your foul. But if not, you're in a position of where you can maybe go on, and as Oggy said, either score, get a penalty, get a free kick in the edge of the box. So I think it's a combination of those things where the referee, I think, has more than anything thinks Rashford is looking for it and just goes down way too easily. Although, in my opinion, there is contact, and if there's contact, then you can get the foul.
Can I just make a point on Rashford? I don't know if it came across to you guys watching on TV, but probably from the 20th minute, he was having conversations with Ten Hag and the team doctor, and it just didn't seem right physically. It was almost like he was feeling something, and then he'd have a spurt, he'd have a sprint. You think, well, maybe he's all right, but for a good part of that game, it just felt like United were concerned about Rashford. They had Ahmed Diallo and Anthony warming up, and it's like, well, if he's not fit, take him off. I understand you keep Rashford on because he's capable of a moment of magic if you saw with a goal, but at times you're thinking he wasn't really closing down, and he wasn't really. He looked compromised, and that for me was like, well, Ten Hag has got to make a call. He's got to say, right, I've got to take you off because we need 11 fit players on the pitch. But he kept him on. He had half time. He came back out, but it just didn't seem right. And I think it was the Kyle Walker incident in the first half where, again, he fell over and kind of challenged from Walker. It wasn't a foul, but he seemed to land awkwardly. But from that point on, he wasn't fully fit. So, take him off because he wasn't able to do what you need him to do. And I think that's on Ten Hag, really.
Well, let's continue to I suppose, on Marcus Rashford because, Stevie, as you would know, everybody's discussed it, that he has been in the headlines this week with his, I suppose, comments after talking to everyone, finally speaking out in the Players' Tribune, talking about how, we should not question his commitment to Manchester United. He is a Man United boy through and through. I remember we did a preview to this match, speaking to our other colleague, Rob Dawson, ahead of it. And he said, look, the most perfect way for Rashford to respond to all this criticism isn't necessarily that way, but it's on the pitch and doing stuff exactly like what he did today, kind of reminding everyone, as Oggy pointed out, that he is capable of some magic out there. How much of a world of good did he do his stock with that goal today, albeit in a losing cause?
Where do you want me to start? Listen, boo-hoo, cry me a river. I mean, seriously, keep your mouth shut and go and do your job. I mean that's it in a nutshell. Do what you're supposed to do. He did that today. Yeah. But you know what? You can't do it every 5 or every 6 games. If you play with Man United, you got to do it 4 out of 5 at the very least. So, yeah, cry me a river with all this sob story and oh, this and no more. We heard it all before. You get paid to produce on the field. You get paid to run your heart out. And you get paid to produce. So go and do it. I don't want to hear all the other nonsense. And as far as his stock's concerned, it probably wakens people's eyes up in the football world to, you know what? This guy shows us every now and again what he can do. But then he also shows us what he doesn't do. And so, if anything, it hurts his reputation because we all know he's got talent. We all know what he's capable of. But the fact that we very rarely see it, and let's be honest, we got a spurt last year for about 6 months. The previous 2 or 3 years was nothing. And this season's been back to the normal. So as far as his stock's concerned, his reputation isn't where it should be. and albeit a fantastic strike and a fantastic goal, this game ain't going to put it back anywhere near where it should be.
Augie, what about you? I know it's very hard to get a compliment out of you on the best of days, but speaking about Marcus, of course, because you would have definitely been there in Manchester, followed this story closely as well. First of all, what was the reaction like when he scored? Of course, it would have silenced Etihad on a whole, but then the fact that it was him coming off the back of, like I said, this article that has kind of got everybody talking for better or for worse.
Well, like Stevie said, nobody else's quality, and it was an amazing goal. It was a kind of David Beckham, Bobby Charlton goal. It was it was one of the goals of the season. You can't deny it. One of the best goals I've ever seen in the Manchester derby. But he has to be doing that not every week, but he has to be showing that kind of finishing all the time, because he's United's best paid player, he's the biggest reputation, and he talked a great game on Thursday or Friday when he released that statement. But for me, it didn't address the key issues that people are really questioning about: his work rate and his off-field situation, where he twice now he's fallen foul of Erik ten Hag's discipline. He didn't talk about what he did wrong, or why it was the wrong thing to do to go out when he was, and why he's constantly questioned for his kind of enthusiasm when he's pressing, which is very light. It's a slow motion press. He doesn't really put the work in. So nobody's questioning his commitment to Man United. It's more about his effort on the pitch and his body language, and he didn't address that. It was almost like it was a sob letter, really. And Stevie's right. Pick your moments. And that goal he scored today was amazing, and we'll see it countlessly now for the rest of the season. But do you know what it reminds me? It reminds me a little bit of Neymar. Neymar has these magic moments in his locker. He'll produce these magic moments every few months or so, just to remind people what a great player he is. But then for the next 6 months, you say, well, what's he doing now? He's, hands on his hips or throwing his hands in the air. Marcus Rashford doesn't want to be a new Neymar. He wants to be a new Mbappe or something like that. And he's got the talent, but I think he's 25, 26 now. He needs to be more consistent. And there's definitely a player there. But like Stevie said, if you take it that 3 or 4 months of last season and look at the last 3 seasons, he's let people down a lot. And I think he should focus on that, really. Start to be more consistent.
All right, well, just looking at highlights of the game and seeing some of the City fans doing the Ponsan celebration, which we know exactly what that means. And Stevie, as we said, it was a dominant performance by Manchester City. Don't worry, citizens, we'll get to talking about how great City and Foden were in just a bit. But looking at the scoreline and considering how the other Manchester derbies of recent days and years have gone, do you think Erik ten Hag can take some positive from this, in the sense that it wasn't as bad as many probably thought? Because people joke about it and say United could be 4 or 5 down by halftime, judging by last encounters, and it really wouldn't have been a joke, because this has been United's reality. So any positives ten Hag can take from today?
Yeah, I think so. I know Rashford takes a lot of the headlines, and he was talking about his attitude and his closing down, but I think the positive for ten Hag would be that Man United as a team today, for 60 odd minutes, showed that they were together, showed that they were going to run for each other, showed that they were trying to back each other up. So you can't argue that. Manchester United, no question, for an hour, were together, and that's one of the things that has been questioned for a long time. Is this side split? Is the dressing room this and that? Who is the cliques? All this stuff. But they showed in this game, in particular, that they're running for each other, and that is a huge positive. If they can just be more consistent as individuals and not make mistakes as often as they do from absolutely nowhere, then you've got the makings of a team. But yeah, the positive is the work rate and the commitment they showed to each other until the inevitable, because when a team like City and the ability that City have, and when you're playing against a guy like Foden, I mean, Foden's exceptional. The way he takes, it doesn't matter how you hit the ball to this guy, whether it's round his throat or round his backside or in the back of his head, he somehow caresses it into the right spot. And the goal is just Phil Foden. Both goals, I should say. It's just Phil Foden. Fantastic player. And as much as I'm saying United were together and closed down well, and the desire was there to do all that hard work, when you're up against a team and up against individuals like Foden, then it's going to be tough. And you're away from home.
Yeah, well, Augie, you should be pretty proud that you're from that Mancunian area because Marcus Rashford, of course, a local boy, showing what he is capable of on his best of days, and Phil Foden as well, the man they call Stockport Messi. Even though that's some high praise to compare anyone to Messi, but truly, how many more good words can we find about Phil Foden? Was he just on some of his best work today that you've seen?
Well, I saw him score a hat-trick last season in this game, so I thought he might be on for another one at one point. But I tweeted last season that at some point he could be a Ballon d'Or winner. And I've got, obviously it's Twitter, you get laughed at, but I think that in terms of what Foden's got, he's got that real mercurial talent. He can finish, he can beat a player, he can find a pass. He's got great energy. Physically, he's much stronger than he was when he was a kid. And he's one of these City players that doesn't really get the credit he deserves. I think Haaland gets a lot, De Bruyne gets a lot, Rodri gets a lot, and all quite rightly. But Phil Foden just flies under the radar. And I think, I don't know what his stats are overall, but for me, he's just an incredible player. And he's probably not valued as much as he should be because he plays in such a great team. There's a debate in England at times about, should Gareth Southgate pick Phil Foden or Bukayo Saka? I think Saka's a great player, but I pick Foden every time. I just think Foden's the finished article, and I think he's won everything he can win. He's performed at the biggest stage, Champions League stage. He's a sensational player, and it's Stockport Iniesta, by the way. It's not Stockport Messi. He's not that good, but I think I think Iniesta's now the Barcelona Foden. But he's a player. I mean, he's a great player, and I think Guardiola's worked with some top players in his time. I think let's put it this way: they're not missing Jack Grealish because Phil Foden's such a great player.
Oh, Augie, you need to sit in the crowd a bit more. He graduated from Iniesta a long time ago and became a Stockport Messi. But of course, Stevie, speaking to you as well about the goal scorers, it's hard to look past Phil Foden just because of what he did today. But Erling Haaland got his goal today. He now has 80 Manchester City goals in 84 games, 54 in 57 Premier League games. After he missed that chance to show that he may still just be human, he needed to get a goal, didn't he? Or he would have been fuming at the end of this.
Well, at 1-0, I'd kind of written the headlines in my head. I'm thinking, you know what? This could cost City 5 points because his 2 missed headers against Chelsea cost them 2 points. And at 1-0 today, I'm thinking this could be another 3 down the pan. So that's obviously a very negative way of looking at it. But at the same time, somebody like Haaland, they brush things like this off and step up big time. And he did that with the third goal that completely finished this game off. Got himself in a position, opened his body up, didn't panic. The composure was back. The composure was there. And he delivered into the bottom corner. So, yeah, it was a horrendous miss. But somebody with his talent and his mentality can shrug off such a miss like this for lesser players could haunt them and be people talking about it continuously. But this guy just brushes it all off, and then the next time you give him an opportunity, shuts everybody up, puts it in the back of the net, and makes it seem like business as usual.
And Augie, Friday on FC Live, we were talking about how I suppose Erik ten Hag and possibly more the new guys who are heading up this Ineos investment, the fact that United are entering into a new era, could use this match as a measuring stick just to see really how big the gap.
How far behind they are, you mean?
The gulf between Manchester United and Manchester City is right now. After today's match, what do you think they're thinking in terms of where to start once summer comes?
Where to start, correct.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Listen, when you get on one of the trains on the London Underground, they say mind the gap. Well, yeah. The City fans were chanting mind the gap, Man United, because the gap is massive. I mean, Jim Ratcliffe said a couple of weeks ago that it's a 2 or 3 year project, and that, to be fair, that is he's being honest. I think it's right. It's at least 2 or 3 years, but I suppose what you need is United to make a lot of progress, and also for Pep Guardiola to leave Man City, because I think until he goes, City will remain this formidable force. And there will inevitably be a dip when Pep Guardiola goes. It happens to all the great clubs. I mean, I'm sure Liverpool have it next year when Klopp leaves, but what is the gap for Man United? I think today, he just told us what we already know, that United have got some good players. You know, Kobbie Mainoo is going to be a good player. Bruno Fernandes in the right team is a good player. I think Rasmus Haaland, when he comes back again, I think he's a good forward amongst good forwards. But I think you look around, you think Victor Lindelof not good enough. You know, Johnny Evans has had a great season. He's been United's best defender, but ultimately he's 36 years old. He isn't up to future. Diogo Dalot, good going forward. What I'm trying to say is, in every part of the pitch, they need to improve. They need to find better players, and that takes time. And I think City just exposed United today for the weaknesses. And you know, when Amrabat comes off the bench, he doesn't look a player really. You've got Christian Eriksen on the bench, who again, great player in the past, but he's not got the legs anymore. So United have got a lot of problems to address. And I think we already knew that, but today kind of exposed that for what it is. But they do have some talent there. It would be wrong to say they don't, and like Stevie said earlier on, at least we can't accuse United of lacking fight and spirit today, because they really showed that. But you know, Man United are more than fight and spirit. That's not what they're about. That should be the absolute bare minimum. We shouldn't be applauding Man United for showing fight and spirit, but that's where they're at right now.
All right, then. Well, Stevie, I suppose before we wrap, I'm going to throw the attention to you and your Liverpoolians, because you know what they say, it is easier to chase than it is to lead. And City now just 1 point behind Liverpool in the Premier League table. And the fact that, albeit they have been going well, Jurgen's kids, to match up to Manchester City when they're hot on your tails it is quite a daunting task. But after what you've seen today and in terms of the title race, what are you feeling? Are you shaking a little?
I don't shake.
Oh, that's true. You're Scottish, so you're never cold.
There you go. No, I think even previous to this game, you know, City are the team to beat. They were the team to beat at the start of the season, and right now they're still the team to beat. You know, they've got particularly the experience, and they've got something that Liverpool don't have right now, and that is a squad. You know, we saw today the changes that Pep could make, and we also saw a couple of weeks ago the changes that Liverpool can make and bringing on kids. So Alan Hansen did say you don't win anything with kids, and people have poo-pooed that a couple of times since he said it. But Liverpool ain't winning the Premier League this season if the kids have got to play game after game. You know, they have to get the big guns back, and if they don't, then they will drop points. And that shouldn't surprise anybody. The problem is, will City drop points? I'm not so sure, and that's why they're favourites still, big time.
Well, I think those kids might want to remind everyone that they've got a nice little Carabao Cup medal that they are definitely holding close to their heart, that they played a part in winning there for Liverpool. Thanks so much, of course, to Mark Ogden and to Stevie Nicol. It was a big day in the Premier League with this Manchester derby, but as it has been for some time now, Manchester remains blue for the moment.